Hey, welcome to Containers from the Couch. If this is your first time joining us on the show, my name is Adam Keller. I am a developer advocate here at AWS. I talk all things containers, and here specifically on Containers from the Couch, we talk all things containers, all things AWS, and it really spans from native container services to community, projects, everything that revolves around containers. So just want to say hello to everyone in the audience and thank you for joining us. Hello. Here we go. Oh, nice. We got a first time watching live. So for those who are, if you want to see our content, but you can't always catch us live, you can go to containersfromthecouch.com. We have a ton of pre-recorded content there, and it really spans from, ECS, EKS, Kubernetes, open source projects, ECR, App Runner, all things really related to containers. So today's show is, based on the title. We're here to talk about AWS App Runner today, and specifically a feature we just recently announced, which is AWS X-Ray integration with AWS App Runner. So if you're not familiar with, AWS X-Ray or what that is, essentially this is a way to just have to gain further insight into what your application is doing through traces. And, oftentimes in a microservice world where we're communicating with other APIs, databases, and so many other resources, we need that observability to see end to end with those traces to really understand what's going on with our applications, where our bottlenecks are, where our failure points are, and so on. So prior to releasing this feature, if you've ever operated containers on AWS or, using an orchestrator, there's a couple ways that folks would set up this observability and to get your traces from your code and from your application actually to X-Ray. So one is you instrument this inside of your code. You have all the SDKs and you do that yourself. That's probably the least preferred approach there. And then the alternative is you would have to sidecar like a telemetry agent, whether that's like you sidecar it with your container as you run it in like Kubernetes, EKS, ECS, or another common practice is to like have what's called like a daemon service or a daemon set, where essentially on every host, you're running this one collector that everything it basically ships metrics to, and that's responsible for shipping that those metrics to X-Ray and those traces to X-Ray. So with this release, with AWS App Runner, this is a fully managed service, and App Runner truly enables developers, operators to focus on their code, their containers, and less on all the underlying components that they need to think about traditionally, which is scaling, what metrics do you need to use for scaling, and then how do you take those metrics and actually create the actionable alarms to ensure that it does scale in and out as traffic ebbs and flows. So I do have, there is some documentation out there. So if you want to read more on App Runner, we're not really going to go into that today on kind of the foundation of what App Runner is. But if you want to just get hands-on with App Runner, there's a couple links out there that I'm posting here. Check out these URLs. You can go get started. This particular link is a walkthrough that'll get you going on just building a simple App Runner service. So with that said, we're going to dive into the feature and we're going to actually demo it. And today I have, we're fortunate to have a senior SDE on the App Runner team who's going to join us and actually talk about the feature. So I'm going to bring him in now. So, hey, Yiming, how you doing?
Hey, Adam. Happy to be here.
Good to have you here. Of course, it wouldn't be normal if we didn't have some sort of technical difficulties coming in, but it seems like Yiming's good now. So, Yiming, I kind of talked about, X-Ray a little bit. I talked about high level what App Runner is, and, the integration that we've released. Maybe why don't we start with just telling us, a little bit about yourself, what you do here and, what you did to help, get this product released?
Sure. I'm happy to say that. Hi everyone, this is Yiming. So I'm a software engineer from AWS App Runner. I'm happy to be here with Adam to talk about our new feature and our new release.
And so we have Brent in the audience. Brent was the creator. Him and I worked really hard to create Containers from the Couch. Hey Brent, good to see you. So Yiming, let's talk about this feature. So I mentioned traditionally when you're deploying a containerized service, usually you're using some sort of orchestrator, right? Whether that's ECS, EKS, Kubernetes, and there's a lot of work that's involved to basically get your code and get your traces to X-Ray. You have to either use the SDKs yourself in your code, which probably not the best, or you have to sidecar a container that like the OTel collector, which is open telemetry collector, or the X-Ray agent, or you run it as like a daemon service. So there's a lot of work that kind of has to go into play to get this just right. With App Runner, it's just as simple as clicking a button, right?
Yes, exactly what you just mentioned. It is always there requires some work in the distributed system and the microservice, especially like ECS, EKS, and especially container platforms. We need a sidecar, and we need to plug in, and we need SDK to inject the no matter what observability platform to send the trace and get the metrics and login for visibility of the service. And the App Runner, since it is managed a little bit stopped by a platform for customers. So what we thinking is try to build something out of box can provide to customer, and also don't require too much actual effort to build or significantly change their observability tech stack. So which means they can easily move their applications from the other and whatever platform to App Runner to run their container without to change their tech stack too much. So that's the most of motivation come from for us to think about this feature design, think about what we can provide to customer with a clean experience.
And that's really nice. It's a great point that, so if you're currently, you have your telemetry set, if you're using the open telemetry agent, like to collect those metrics and ship them to X-Ray, it's really a seamless shift for you. If you wanted to move to App Runner, but this was one of those things that may have been holding you back. And again, you're not managing a sidecar when you use App Runner. Now, under the covers, that may be a different story what we're doing, right? But you don't have to think about that. And that's just one of the main benefits of App Runner is you get this advanced, containerized technology that we're fully managing, scaling in and out, and now observability and metrics. It's all there within the service. All you do is say, here's my source code, here's how I want it to build and deploy, or here's my container image. Let's just get it deployed to App Runner. So you did write a blog on this, which we have linked here. So what we're going to actually do is Yiming is going to walk through what he did in the blog and actually deploy a service to App Runner, taking advantage of this new observability feature. So if you want to share your screen, we can dive right into it and have some fun. And while Yiming gets that going, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to drop a line in chat and let us know what questions you have. We can answer them live. Again, we're fortunate enough to have someone who's on the App Runner team who's building it, firsthand. So he's got a lot of great insight if there's any questions. So, all right, let's get right into it. And we're going to do that. So Yiming, why don't you go ahead and kick us off?
Sure. Let me share screen. just make sure everyone can see the screen. And I log in my account right now. So so today's demo is we have write up the steps in my blog post, but I will walk it through with you guys. And mainly we're going to demonstrate a web application which is interact with DynamoDB data store, and it is a RESTful API service. And this is what I want to deploy today and show how the X-ray tracing is play its role there. So right now, I will.
And, Yiming, one thing, sorry, if you can, so we'll probably need like 5 zoomage points there, just for visibility. And usually it's like where it's really uncomfortable for you, but it's like just right for the audience. I think that's good. That should be good. That's perfect. And if anyone, if you can't see or anything, let us know.
Sure. Yeah. So basically, I will first briefly to describe a little bit the demo app, which is I just briefly talked about it already. So the demo app is the application which is to interact with the DynamoDB data store. And if you can see here in my console, I already have DynamoDB data store, which is called movies. I already fill up the data in advance, so you can see the most of data is regarding the movies record. It's more like IMDb, the minor IMDb, for example, the King Kong here. We have the title, we have the director information, we have rating and the rank. So basically, this is the data store we're going to interact today. And to demo the X-ray tracing, so the first step is for example, we need to customer to instrument and build that application with the OpenTelemetry instrumented. So I will share a little bit my source code to give a brief walkthrough.
And that is, while you're doing that, that is important to mention that in order to take advantage of this, you need to instrument your application code so those metrics can get sent. And you'll dive into it here, but there is some cool stuff going on with the OTel and what auto instrumentation and all that.
Yes. So as you guys can see, this is the main function of this web app. It is just a pure DynamoDB API service, RESTful service. It's including the post method, including the put method and the get and delete. So it is a CRUD API service, pretty simple. And there's nothing special I need to do using the OpenTelemetry to instrument this web app. So what I only need to do is first to make sure I have the OpenTelemetry dependencies installed in the requests. So this is the Python web app. So I use the requests to inject the dependencies. So only 3 lines here to inject dependencies for OpenTelemetry library. And what we have here is the propagator, because we are going to tracing and monitoring the X-ray, and the SDK extension for AWS. And the other thing, which is the environment variable. So basically for Python OpenTelemetry SDK, they are use the executable functions as a wrapper to automatically initial the instrumenters. And by the way, I forgot to mention there are 2 ways to instrument your application. The one way it is auto instrumentation. The other way is the manual instrumentation. Manual instrumentation gives you more flexibility to add some customized code and to per your needs. But what I demo today is using open instrumentation, which is just a couple lines of change and change.
I think if you're new to this, if you're new to instrumentation and all that, this is a great way to get started, and because the Open Telemetry agent Open Telemetry library integrates with a lot of these well-known libraries, Flask, as in like AWS libraries, and all the SDK calls. It has deep integrations with. So that's how we're able to, with this auto instrumentation, it gives you so much out of the door. Like it's a great chance to get started, and then as you want to add your own instrumentation and customize, you can do that down the road.
Yes, exactly. And as you guys can see here, I'm using the Docker file. The Docker file I put here is for OpenTelemetry instrument setup is in the line 8. I add the OpenTelemetry bootstrap, which is to install the OpenTelemetry agent, and I having the couple environment variable for resource attributes. I put the service name is movies app, and the hotel propagators I put X-ray because it is our destination to monitoring the traces. And I also have the hotel Python ID generator also ensure the spans generated by OpenTelemetry is using the ID format, which is compatible with the X-ray backend, and then that's it. And we just attach these environment variables and the Docker in the Docker file. That's pretty much what we need to do for our source code, for our configurations.
And so, with App Runner, you can, I mentioned this earlier, you can deploy your service directly from your code base and let the App Runner service build a container image and deploy it for you, or you can bring your own container image. Now, Yiming, in the documentation, I believe we actually have like an example just like this. So if you weren't using the container image, how to do this with the source code deployment. Is that right?
Yes, I can also give a show a little bit the I have two branch of this web app. So one branch is within the Docker image, which is what I shown here. And I do have the other one. Let me switch the branch to
cool.
give a show if you want to use source code, what do you need to set up.
And just if anyone wants to see that documentation, it is here. I'll post it in chat as well, just in case you wanted to read up more on this.
So here you go. So I already switched the branch of my local code, and if you can see here, the Docker file is gone, and it is we are going, if we want to deploy through the code repository of like GitHub you stored in your code, you just need to use the App Runner YAML, which is provided by App Runner, and for source code deploy approach. And you can see here it is pretty similar like Docker file. What I put there is in the build step, I have the OpenTelemetry bootstrap to installed, and in the run step, I have the OpenTelemetry instrument as the keyword here, and same the environment variable is put in here to give the correct configuration for X-ray backend to compatibility. So this is what we need to do. It's pretty simple. What you don't need to change one line code for your source of application. What you only need to do is add a couple lines of the environment variable. Yeah.
So that's basically the heavy lift for the user here, is you just have to define those environment variables to make sure that the Open Telemetry agent knows exactly where to send those spans and do all that. So
yes,
awesome.
Yes, and let me go back to the console. So I already showed the console, our data store, and I'm going to the application instrumentation setup. The second step is for customer who is using the the App Runner. So make sure, since we are going to interact with the DynamoDB, make sure you have the roles, which is called instance role here. Basically, it is IAM role to interact with the DynamoDB, and I call it Movies App Instance Role. For more about instance role detail, you can refer to App Runner's developer guide, and there's a section talking about how the App Runner interacts with IAM. And there's one section separately to talk about instance role, what it is and what's its responsibility. And the trust relation is just the same as the developer guide put. So this is the App Runner's key service for you to use the instance role. And the additional permission I put here, it is one is the DynamoDB full access, which is for our demo purpose to connect DynamoDB. The second one is for X-ray daemon write access, which is to give the permission for our OpenTelemetry to push the data to our X-ray backend. And you can see.
Yes. So basically, the instance role is what enables our code to be able to communicate with the AWS resources that it needs to communicate with. So your code interacts with DynamoDB. That's an IAM control. So you're attaching to your instance role permission to talk to Dynamo. And then you have to do the same with X-ray because it's your code, your service that is actually talking to X-ray and via IAM is what bridges that gap.
Yes, thanks Adam for add-on. And yeah, and this is all the prepare we need. And let's go to App Runner to start create a service. So for example, here I click create a service button, and I choose the ECR public image because I have one prepared for here. I call it Movies App. All the source code of this image is what I just showed. So there's nothing special. And click the next. And I will call the service Movies App. I will leave the virtual CPU and memory by default here, and port it by default. Auto scaling, I will not configure too much. I will just leave it as the one minimum, and it will automatically scale up if there's more traffic. But for the demo, I think we are fine. And the key things is in the instance role here, we will going to add the Movies App instance role I have in the place. And in the networking, I will leave it public access, but it's also working for VPC access if you want. And the key here, this is the new thing we just launched yesterday. So we have the new observability section here in the service creation page, and we have the configuration. We have a simple toggle, just the one click, just click like here. So you're going to have the X-ray tracing. And then I will click the next and review a little bit what is I have set up for the other things. And you can see there's an on here for the observability and create and deploy. So the overall service creation process may take 3 to 5 minutes because behind the scenes there brand new resource going to set up, and it takes some time. So let's wait.
And so while we wait, maybe we can do a couple of things. One, there was a question that came in from Raphael that I wanted to address. So Raphael had asked, so I feel like there's still some features missing that may be preventing from switching from EKS to App Runner, and that's like WAF integration, custom SSL certs. What do you think the use cases are? And so Brent had responded with great response. These are the things, like if there's features that are missing, this is where our public roadmap can really help. Our PMs are constantly reviewing our roadmap to see what customers are asking for. So if, and I saw Raphael had actually commented on the WAF issue, so that's perfect. bring your use case, tell us, what you're looking for, what feature integrations and why. And that just helps us to, as we start to think about how we want to plan features for the future, this is going to really help that. I just want to say with App Runner, right now, if you have a public facing, API service that you want to have, as little management as possible, App Runner is a great fit. It has auto scaling based on concurrency. So if concurrent connections are what you want to use to scale, App Runner is a great fit, and it can scale from 1 to 25, and it's all seamless and managed. And you have some control over concurrency, how many requests you want to use as your scaling metric, and so on. Was there anything else you wanted to add to that, Yiming?
No, I think that's exactly the same as what you just mentioned. We have the public GitHub roadmap. This is super cool, and we rely on the customer to put their voice on it, and the PMs and the engineering team and the marketing, all of us is review them periodically, and especially like X-ray is one of the issue the customer put on the GitHub, and we just resolved it yesterday, and so we hear customer voice, and we make progress and make things better for the App Runner. We are still young product, but we will contribute to make it better.
Yeah. So, it to me, I always like to, when you evaluate, you have a new workload you want to build, there's a new feature you're building, a new service, within your team or your company. Evaluate the service that's going to make the most sense, based on your needs. And if you can let AWS manage a lot of the underlying cruft and you don't have to think about it, to me, it's a no-brainer, right? So just always evaluate based on your use case, and if it fits that use case, App Runner is a really great service. So yeah, definitely check out the roadmap. I posted it in chat. So if there's anything you see there, feel free to comment. So while we're going through the deploy, you had mentioned App Runner is, because the first time we launch a service, there's quite a few things App Runner is doing for us. Do you maybe want to share like some of the things that we're building like on behalf of the customer here?
Yes. So since the last year May, we general available, we have focused on to launch incrementally different perspective and features for customer. From day one, we have the auto scaling, we had the CI/CD deployment, and we have the metrics and logging building. So, and I think we also launched afterwards the biggest one is VPC. We support the virtual private network containers running scenarios, and we also going to have more and more incremental features on which is Teams is already working on in our roadmap. If you go to the GitHub roadmap, there's something they're labeled working on and on the plan. Just look forward to we're going to launch them sooner or later. And overall, App Runner is the still new platform as always, and there are lots of things going on, and there's lots of feature which is requested by customer. We will deliver them one by one.
And so I just posted a couple links, talking about that VPC integration. That was a huge one. A lot of customers were asking for that. And essentially, so I posted the links. Also, I have a demo where I walk through actually deploying that's the wrong one. This is the one. A demo where I actually deploy like a multi-tier service with App Runner as the front end API that talks to an ECS service in a private subnet and an RDS database in a private subnet within in a VPC. So this was a really popular ask. So we keep, iterating on this and making it better and better. So your voice really does matter here. One thing I wanted to touch on in the console here is everything you need for your service is here. Metrics. Metrics for your service under the metrics tab. logging. You can see your application logs, also the build logs and deployment logs. It's all there. So when a deployment's triggered, you look in that event log, you can see when that deployment happened, if it failed, what happened, and so on. So I see the service created successfully.
Yes, we finally get it there. So I want to show here. So the service creation is successfully, and you guys can see the tab here. Tracing is already on because we toggled it on. And let me show, we have the service arm start from very beginning, one service creation, and we have default demo. By the way, the other important feature we have is the customer domain, which is customer can customize any domain URL. But right now for our demo, I just using a default. And let me open this. So here you go. So we have the movie database API application is up and running. So for demo convenience, I have the get, post, and put, delete APIs, which is showing here. Let me zoom out in a little bit. So
perfect.
So right now I will, what I want to do is I will call one of the API. For example, I just show you guys when I walk through the data store. We have the movie named King Kong. So I want to call this API to see whether it can get the King Kong's information, which is I put some sample outcome. So let's see whether it will works. Sure. So we have the King Kong's movies, all the information when we call the get API, which is RESTful get API publicly. And so we can get it. So which means this container App Runner service is connect to our DynamoDB successfully and grab the data what we need through our implemented API in the code. And then what I'm going to do is I want to use X-ray to see what happened for the behavior I performed. Is I will click this view service map. It will jump into the CloudWatch. By the way, there are two consoles of X-ray. One is CloudWatch, one is X-ray. So right now, if you can see it here, the AWS is recommended using the CloudWatch right now. So just a separate topic. But you going to see here, so I will zoom it to 15 minutes for the trace, and I will run query, and you're going to see we have the trace for the URL address, which is 3QKJE of exactly matching what's the App Runner service URL. And I called get API and I flashed the page a couple times. So it gets recorded here. And it shows the response time of the result from the database. It shows the timestamp I click this behavior action and the response code. And the trace status is okay. And trace ID is the something record each request that sent to the App Runner application. And for example, if I click, if I want to trace down a little bit more deeper about what exactly happened, I want to see some amazing thing. I want to see some interesting thing, which is, let me go to the trace, which is connected to some traces. I just refreshed the page, but not exactly to call the data store. But here, this is the trace I called get API and with the data store. So you can see some fantastic graph is showing up here. We have the client, we have the App Runner service, which is not annotated and called movies app is exactly what we're running here. And we have automatically, it doesn't do anything in our source code, but it detects it is from DynamoDB. We have some communication happen in the between App Runner service and the DynamoDB data store. So this is what X-ray provided for us, and this is what we launched. And we have the nice App Runner brand echo here, and you click it, you're going to see more trace summary, like the method is get, response is code is 200, anything's going all right, and the duration is 7 milliseconds. And I did this action 1 minute ago, and I have more breakdown of the segments of the timeline. Is the movies app Runner service is calling DynamoDB with the duration, and I also can see from DynamoDB perspective, there's a 6 milliseconds response. And there's more details here, which is having the X-ray origin, which App Runner service, and there's no error and faults. And the URL, it is the one we are running right now, and this is exactly the request. If you can see, this is not the public URL of the service, is exactly request I call. And also the resource is X-ray, and it detect the SDK is open telemetry for Python. So it all happen automatically behind the scenes. You don't need to do anything extra there, and the metadata is also recorded here. So yeah,
I mean,
go ahead.
It's pretty awesome when you think about it. So from a management perspective, you took advantage of auto instrumentation with the open telemetry agent and software and SDK. So you didn't even have to like instrument your code. You just installed the library, you bootstrapped it, and you said, here's my code. You handle the instrumentation and let me just run my code. So to be able to see, to have the span and the trace end to end is so helpful. And again, this is where you can find bottlenecks. Right now, you see DynamoDB's 6 millisecond response time. That's fantastic. But what if you see with this particular call, that is 600 milliseconds. Well, we have a problem. Why is it taking so long? And you know exactly what call was made, where your bottleneck is in the entire trace. And it's just, it was kind of easy to just get set up, low overhead.
Yeah. And there's one more action I want to play here. Is, for example, right now, I think by default we are using get. Let me try a put API and to see whether it can record here and differentiate with the get API.
Perfect.
So go ahead.
There was really quick another question came in from Raphael. So auto scaling, is it only configured by concurrency, or can it be configured by CPU and memory? So as of today, it is concurrency. That is the metric that is used for scaling concurrent connections.
Yes, exactly. That's the right now our auto scaling. Fortunately, I'm one of the founder of auto scaling feature and the implementer. So right now we support concurrency, which is super important. And of course, we are open for discussion for the CPU and memory support in the future.
Yeah. Perfect. So yeah, if there's use cases there, please roadmap. Let us know what you're trying to do, what you're seeing, so it can get to folks like Yiming and the product managers, and they can work together to get that on the roadmap.
So as you guys can see here, I will try the put API, which is I use in the Postman as the request platform. And I prepare the request name, which I want to insert one of the movie very favorite last year, draft with the Land of Legends. So it is provided by Rachel Games, and I put the rating is 10 because I like it, and the rank is, and I just randomly give some number, and the running time because they're 9 season. Yeah. So I just put data, make up some data here, and let's send this data. Cool. If you guys can see, let me zoom it in a little bit.
Perfect.
So you can see it return the 200, and which means it inserts the data successfully to the database. And I try it one more. And let me go back to the trace to see what happened in the middle. I see two put method here, so which is means X-ray recorded and detected the two behaviors I put from Postman, and which is exactly what I just performed to insert some data to DynamoDB, which is differentiated with the last action, which is I retrieve some data. So, and if I go to the traces, the one of the amazing feature is you can select nodes, and you can also do something to query by, which is actually provide a powerful aggregator tool for customer if they want to have some analysis for their tracing data. Including to triage it by the nodes, which is showing up like what we have today is the two members. One is App Runner, the other one is DynamoDB, but we also can do it is HTTP method, and you can see the HTTP method with we have post, delete, get, put here, and we have hit the two action here, and the percentage and the mean time, but the most important it is the status code. Right now, we don't have any 500 of 4xx, but if you sometime you have the connection or communication or the bad request happen, you're going to see them, and you can easily query them and do some statistic through this response code to differentiate separately with the 200, which is already success, doesn't have any issue, but you can analyze those issue and problem response and do your analysis and do the breakdown, do deep dive what's happening, do the things, actually record all the input and output. So you have the way and the channel to see what happened under the hood for your App Runner service. So it is pretty powerful.
That's a really great point. And you know, when we're in the fire, when things are going wrong, you want to be able to find where the problem is, and you want to find it fast so you can work on fixing it. Having this enabled, being able to query based on certain response codes, you can see I'm getting this response code at this particular endpoint. It just gives you that insight where you can go and troubleshoot quickly, because there's nothing worse than when you get a page at 2 a.m. Brent, who's in the audience, I believe he calls it the 2 a.m. or the 3 a.m. rule, where it needs to be easy enough that if you're woken up at 3 a.m., you know exactly where to go to see exactly where the problems are, and you're not in a wild goose chase. So this is just another great way to have that insight and to quickly find out where your problems are and get to resolving them quicker.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the demo I want to show everyone here. So, and
awesome.
all the steps is included, as I mentioned, in the blog post I wrote. So just take a look offline if you are interested, and let us know if you have any question.
Perfect. Yeah, so I do have the blog link here on the stream. Also, I've posted it in the channel. There, someone said 3 a.m. pages are the worst. I totally know. I've been there, and I know that it's stressful, right? When you get paged at 3 a.m., it's just crazy. So whatever you can do to have that insight, you know, and for it to be easy to find, that's the key. So you can troubleshoot effectively. There was one other question that came in that I just want to mention from Raphael. So maybe let's just quickly go over again how to get this, how to get X-Ray started. So, you know, as Yiming had showed us, it's just, if you're doing it in the console, it's a click of a button. If you're doing it in the SDK or CloudFormation, I'm sure it's just a Boolean value, right? True, false, if you want it enabled. And the only thing you need to do is have your application instrumented. So whether you use OpenTelemetry auto instrumentation, which again, that's in the blog and also in the App Runner documentation, So if you want to just, if you have a Python app or it supports quite a few languages. So there's the open telemetry documentation where there's ways to get started, especially with auto instrumentation. So I think that's it. Yiming, thank you so much for joining us. It's always awesome to have the folks that are building, the services, that are building the product, be here to demo it and answer questions. That's your Twitter handle, right? So if anyone wants to say hello or anything, they can hit you up there. Also, the roadmap's very important. If you have issues or there's a feature you want, go to the roadmap. Please communicate with us. Let us know what you want to see, what you're thinking. And other than that, thank you everybody so much for joining us today. Containersfromthecouch.com. Please do subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And tomorrow we have a really cool show where one of our container heroes, Vlad, is going to walk through a blog he just wrote that talks through scaling across all the serverless and container platforms here at AWS. And the data is pretty awesome. And you definitely don't want to miss that. So, Yiming, thanks again.
Sure. Thanks, Adam. Happy to be here to share this feature, and also welcome for the feedbacks from if you are watching this video and reading the blog post. Let us know.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time.